In this video, you're going to learn 5 tips for leading your worship ministry. I'm here with Brian Wahl. He's the founder of Worship Tutorials. Make sure you go check out his YouTube channel and subscribe to him.
Let's do that.
He is going to just unpack for us 5 different ways we can really just up our game when it comes to being better leaders as worship leaders. Leader is half of our title, so that's
right.
Something we should be concerned about.
Yeah, we should.
So let's dive in. So one thing I learned really quickly as I was a worship leader and I began my journey as a worship leader is that worship ministry is more than just picking songs. It's more than just the tech. There's a whole lot of leading people that goes into the process, I've been learning a lot of lessons myself over the years. I know you've been learning a lot of lessons too. And you're also passionate about passing on just good old-fashioned leadership lessons to worship leaders. So first, tell us a little bit why are you so passionate about this whole idea of leadership and encouraging worship leaders to really hone in their skills in this area?
I think one of the main reasons is I learned a lot of lessons the hard way, and I made a lot of mistakes along the way. But I also have been fortunate enough to be in like my current church under leadership that is like really strong leadership, and mentored by people who just have a lot of leadership skills and who have gone before and know how to do things with a high level of excellence as far as leadership goes. And so I have been on both sides of that, sort of coin. And so I think back and I think to myself all the time, like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, if I had known then the things that I know now, like I would have made so many less mistakes. I would have led at such a higher level than what I did. And I can think of relationships that aren't what they should be because I didn't lead well. Right? And so I just am very passionate about pouring into younger leaders or leaders that have never had a mentor. Because I think there are a lot of people out there that they can play a song and sing a song, and a pastor says to them, okay, you're the worship leader, now go lead worship. And they don't have a clue how to do it. And they don't know what they don't know, right? Because I was that person. I didn't know what I didn't know.
So what advice then do you have for yourself 15 years ago? What are your top, maybe let's say 5 tips that you would share specifically for worship leaders? And these could be general worship leading tips, but even the ones that hone in more on like, here's how you can avoid a lot of headaches when it comes to leading people.
Yeah, so the first thing that I always think of is your most important job as a worship leader is not to sing a song or lead a song. Your most important job is to build teams. And I never knew that, and I never understood the importance of that. And so, at the end of the day, if you can play guitar and sing or play piano or whatever, you can lead worship, and it's just you up there, but it's going to be way better if you develop a team of volunteers, or it could be, depending on what capacity you're in, it could be people that you hire, but most of the time it's going to be volunteers. If you raise up volunteers and other leaders with you, it's going to make what you do so much better, and it's going to make it a lot more fun to do ministry with people, and just to develop those relationships beyond like this person's a guitar player or a bass player or a drummer, or they do production, beyond just the fact that they can do something for your church or your ministry, but really think of them as like people that you pastor and the relationships you have with them. That's a huge deal for me. Another one is like when you actually lead worship, like playing and executing a song is far down on the list of importance of things that you're actually doing. And so I see a lot of times people, I talk a lot at worship tutorials about like not using music stands, and I get a lot of pushback on that. But really that's not about the music. It has nothing to do with the music stand. It has to do with the level of preparation that you have coming in. Because if your level of preparation is such that your mental capacity is spent looking at a sheet of paper with words and chords on it, and that's what you're thinking about, you're missing like this whole other level of what's going on that you should be paying attention to.
Yeah.
Like you need to be paying attention to the room. You need to try, this is such a mysterious thing, but to be in tune with the Holy Spirit and what's happening in the room. Mm-hmm. Like what is God doing in that room, and how can you lead people in a way that they can experience that?
Yeah.
And so, leading, just executing a song, you have to do it, and you have to prepare yourself in a way that you can do that, but also that you can open your eyes to everything else that's happening and be able to speak into moments like that. And if all we're doing is thinking about what's the next chord, or I can't remember the next line, of the song, then we're missing out on so much as worship leaders.
Yeah, and it's not like excellence and knowing your songs perfect and all that is an end in itself. It's almost kind of just like the baseline of like
it is.
That's where you're gonna start. So that you can actually lead and pastor through worship.
Yeah, absolutely.
What else?
What was the question?
What else would you tell yourself 15 years ago as you started out?
Yeah. Another thing that is so important is your relationship with your pastor. And I think there are a lot of people, sadly, I think there are a lot of people in churches where there's a lot of tension in that relationship. And it could come from a lot of reasons, whether you don't see eye to eye on the way you do ministry or the style of music that you play. I think a lot of times, like an older, more traditional congregation or pastor or leadership of that kind of a church will say, we want to reach young people, or we want to change to a more modern style of worship, so they hire a younger worship leader who doesn't always have a lot of experience and is asked to come in and change culture, which is really hard to do.
Really hard.
And so
I've been there. I've experienced that exactly.
And so now you've got a worship leader who's been asked to change things, and it's funny that congregations and even like leadership in a church, change is great until it starts to happen. Yeah. And then it's like, oh, we don't want this. This is going in, and another thing that's true about change is change is great if you're the one doing it. Mm-hmm. But if change is happening, if you're being asked to change, it's really hard, which is where that congregation of that church is going to be. Mm-hmm. And so now that worship leader is getting, I don't know why I'm going into this, but I just, that congregation's getting all kinds of complaints, or people are talking about them behind their back. And then maybe they're talking to the pastor about them. And it creates a lot of tension in that relationship. And maybe that's not the situation. There's a lot of other places where that tension can come from. But your relationship with your senior pastor is so important, because you are in ministry together. Like you are you're going to war together against the enemy. And Pastor Fuller, who's on the Worship Tutorials channel a lot, he's my pastor at my church. He's the global arts worship leader at my church. And he tells the story, I never forget the first time he told it. He tells the story of Aaron and Hur, right? And they're fighting a battle, and they're holding Abraham's arms up, right? And so as long as Abraham's arms are being held up, the Israelites win. Are they fighting the Amalekites in this story? I'm pretty sure that's who it is.
Yeah, probably.
And so as Abraham's arms begin to get tired and he lowers them, the Israelites lose the battle, right? And so Aaron and Hur are called in. They sit him down on a stump and they say, Aaron, hold one arm up, and Hur, hold the other one up. And they hold his arms up. And the Israelites are able to win the battle, right? And so the illustration is that your senior pastor is Abraham, and he's been fighting that battle for a long time, and he's tired, and he needs someone to help hold his arms up. And so if you're in a relationship with your senior pastor that is not constructive, there's a lot of tension or almost destructive, you're actually pulling his arms down. And so your church is going to lose that fight against the enemy. And so I think that illustration has always really struck me as the importance of being in line with your senior pastor. And as a worship leader, you're ultimately you're called to serve that senior pastor. That senior pastor is leading your church. So you are ultimately your role is to support that person. And if they ask you to do something that you don't believe in or that you don't want to do, you should have a conversation with them about it. And if ultimately you can't, you shouldn't be in leadership underneath them. right? And so, I wish I had known that a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So build a team. Make sure that you know that just mastering the songs are not the only thing that matters.
It's the
It's kind of the baseline.
Yeah.
And then also having a solid relationship with your senior pastor.
Yeah.
I came up with 5 things. So I said 5. So you have 2
We need
more
2
things.
more?
We need
Okay.
2 more.
Yeah.
Leadership lessons.
Leadership lessons, I'm thinking. Another thing I wish I had done a lot earlier on is finding a mentor, somebody to mentor me when I was younger, and now as well. I think we should always be in 2 kinds of relationships. One where somebody is mentoring us, and another where we're mentoring somebody else. Right? And so there's always going to be people along the road that are further along than you that can speak into your life, and you're always going to be further along than somebody else. And and an easy practical scenario for this might be like if you're a worship leader at a church and you lead for youth sometimes, like find a student, ask God to lead you to somebody who's somebody I could mentor in my life who maybe has I would love to do that.
Yeah.
And you can incorporate them in your band, but go out to have coffee with them or whatever, hang out with them and just talk to them about leadership, about leading worship, what it is that you do, what it is that you get to do, because it's an awesome privilege to do it. But also somebody to do that to you, to help you further your skills in leadership. And like I mentioned earlier, I'd never really had that until I started at the church that I'm at. And it's amazing the progress I made as a leader from when I started 7 years ago to now. And I just think to myself, I think about it too with if I had practiced guitar I've been playing guitar for 20 some years. If I had actually practiced that whole time, it'd be way better.
Yeah.
But the same thing with with leadership and mentorship. If I had somebody that mentored me, and it's not just gonna fall into your lap, right? You're gonna have to actively seek that relationship out. But just ask, and I think praying is the first step. We should ask the Holy Spirit to guide us to somebody, and I think God will honor that, because I think God desires that we all be mentored. That's a thing that we see in the Bible that happens a lot too.
Yeah. Sometimes mentoring, you may not immediately find someone who can pour into you, but you can find great books out there on leadership. Books mentor you in a way, right? It's not.
There's a lot of content that's available.
Yeah.
I mean, Jake and I both have content available to help further your skills as a worship leader. Yeah.
All right, one more tip.
Okay. So the last tip, and I think this is extremely important, number 5, and this has to do with building teams, but don't burn out volunteers.
Yeah.
If you have the same person playing drums every week for a year, that person needs a break. And one of 2 things are going to happen. Ultimately there's one thing that's going to happen. They're going to come to you and they're going to say, you know what, I'm done. And you're never going to see them again. Yeah. And what usually happens is, and I know this because I've seen it happen on both sides. So I have been in churches where the same person volunteers every week. Yeah. Or the same band plays every week. And then eventually they're just like, what happened to that guy? I don't know. Or it blew up in a way that was really unhealthy. Yeah. But also at where I am at my church, we have a lot of growth, and so a lot of people will come, and we're always talking about how we need volunteers, and we'll onboard people, which is another tip to develop your systems for onboarding people. But I will hear people say all the time, you know what, my last church just burned me out. I played every single weekend. And I will always smile and say to them, we will never do that to you. Because the most we ever ask people to serve is twice a month. That's it. Unless they specifically say, I would like to serve 3 times a month, or you can schedule me every month. But it's usually, those situations are a single person, especially if somebody has a family. Don't ask them to give up. We ask people, for example, on any given Sunday, we'll have a 2.5-hour rehearsal on Wednesday night, which people are expected to come knowing the songs, having them memorized. We don't waste time. We don't waste each other's time at rehearsal learning the song. Yep. Okay. And then they come, our call time on Sunday is 6:15, and then they serve until about 12:30. Okay. So you're asking people to give up 8 hours a week?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a part-time job almost. Yeah. And if you ask them to give that up every single week, you're stealing time away from their families. And we believe that every single person in the church should serve. That's part of what we're called to do as believers. But we don't believe in abusing people.
Yeah, well, I think as I've gotten older, it's been easier to empathize with different people's situations and contexts and understanding. Okay, I have a vocalist in my band who's a mom, who's taking care of kids and has to take care of getting those kids to and from church, or maybe there's a drummer who, again, like he has a family or a job, or we have a volunteer who like works night shifts, so like he actually comes to church at the end of a shift, and like those are just all factors that you have to be aware of when you're scheduling people and working with people, and just making it clear up front and setting those expectations and asking them, and just maybe have that default expectation of, hey, if you serve, we're only gonna have you twice a month. Let me know if you want to serve more, but just don't go start plugging someone in every single week.
Gosh. Yeah. And it never ends. Like, nobody ever comes to you and says, you know what, I want you to stop scheduling me so much.
Yeah.
People typically will wait because they feel obligated to help you.
Yep.
And that's good. They want to help you.
Yeah.
But what'll happen is they'll reach a point where it's like, I just can't take it anymore.
Yep.
I'm done.
Yep.
And they leave.
They're done.
Right. And so so take care. I mean, ultimately, it's about taking care of your volunteers. It's about pastoring them.
Yep.
And one thing that we as worship leaders, it's easy for us to do is take a drummer. You look at your drummer and you don't see them as a person. You see them as a drummer. You see them as a person that I can schedule to complete a task that I need to complete.
Yeah.
Right? And you begin to think of them as like they're my drummer, rather than it's Rick or whatever the person's name is.
Yeah.
And what are they going through in their lives? It's really about pastoring. But don't burn people out.
So there you have it, folks. Those are the 5 tips. Make sure you're building a team. Make sure that you are musically prepared so you can focus on pastoring and worship. Make sure you have a great relationship with your pastor. Make sure that you find a good mentor and you're always developing yourself. And make sure you don't burn out your team. Those are the 5 golden tips from my man, Mr. Brian Wahl.
Yeah.
Make sure you go check out his YouTube channel, Worship Tutorials. Go subscribe to it. You've probably already subscribed to it along with 400,000 other people. Someday, man, I really look up to you, and I aspire to grow my channel at least to half that size someday.
Oh, so it's gonna happen totally. One day it's gonna be bigger.
Yeah,
I guarantee you. It's only because I've been doing it for like 800 years on YouTube. I'm the old man.
Thanks so much for watching this video. If you found it helpful,
thank you for having me.
Hit that thumbs up button and share it with your friends in ministry. You can check out some related videos right over here, and don't forget to subscribe to the Church Front channel so you can continue to receive all of our latest content to help you grow yourself and grow your worship ministry.
Bye.